He never planned for that morning to matter. It began like every other weekday. Too early, too quiet, the kind of silence that comes from a small apartment where only one child sleeps, and one man carries the weight of two lives. Ethan Parker stood in the kitchen, tying his tie with one hand while flipping pancakes with the other. The radio murmured something about traffic, about weather, about things that didn't really touch him anymore. His world had narrowed over the years into schedules, lunchboxes, deadlines, and bedtime stories. "Dad," Noah said sleepily from the doorway, hair sticking up in a way that always made Ethan smile. "You're burning them." Ethan laughed softly and turned the stove down. "They're not burned, they're confident." Noah rolled his eyes the way only a 9-year-old could. They ate together at the small table, talking about a spelling test and a science project, about how Ethan would try to come home early for once. He always tried. He didn't always succeed. After the school drop-off, Ethan drove to work with his usual knot in his chest. He was good at his job, reliable, quiet, competent. But his boss made him nervous in a way he didn't fully understand. Claire Whitmore was brilliant, composed, and effortlessly intimidating. She ran meetings like a conductor leading an orchestra, never raising her voice, never missing a detail. Ethan respected her deeply, maybe too deeply. That day passed like 100 others. Emails, meetings, coffee that went cold. By evening, Ethan's shoulders ached and his mind felt heavy. On impulse, he decided to stop by the gym. It was something he'd promised himself he'd do more often, something about reclaiming parts of his life he'd let slip away. The gym was quieter than usual, fluorescent lights humming softly, the smell of rubber mats and disinfectant hanging in the air. Ethan changed quickly, lost himself in the rhythm of movement, the steady burn of muscles working. For a while, he wasn't a single dad or an employee, or a man always trying to be enough. He was just breathing. When he finished, he headed toward the lockers, towel slung over his shoulder, mind already drifting back to Noah and dinner and homework. He turned a corner without thinking, and stopped. Claire was there. She stood by an open locker, her back half-turned mid-motion as she slipped into a blouse. Her hair was down, cascading over her shoulders in a way Ethan had never seen at the office. For a split second, time froze. The world narrowed to the soft click of a locker door and the sudden awareness of having crossed into a moment that was never meant to be shared. Ethan started, then stopped. Claire turned, surprise flashing across her face before she quickly pulled the blouse closed. The silence stretched, thick and awkward. "I'm so sorry," Ethan said quickly, heat rushing to his face. "I didn't realize." "It's fine," she said too quickly. Then she exhaled and laughed softly, shaking her head. "Well, not fine. But accidents happen." They stood there, two people stripped of their usual roles, suddenly human in a way that felt dangerous. Ethan looked away, focused intensely on the floor. "I'll just go," he said. "Ethan," Claire said, her voice gentler now. "It's really okay." He nodded, unsure what to say, and escaped into the showers, heart pounding. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. The next morning, everything felt different. When Ethan walked into the office, he was hyper-aware of Claire's presence. Every glance felt loaded, every pause stretched with unspoken memory. In the meeting room, she sat at the head of the table as always, professional and composed. But when her eyes met Ethan's, there was something else there. Not embarrassment, not discomfort, recognition. He told himself he was imagining it. Days passed, weeks. The memory faded at the edges, but the shift remained. Conversations became warmer. Meetings lingered a little longer. Claire asked about Noah one afternoon, genuinely curious, and Ethan found himself talking about bedtime routines and soccer practice in a way he never had at work before. "You do a lot," she said quietly once, after everyone else had left. "I don't think people realize that." Ethan shrugged. "You do what you have to." Claire watched him for a moment, her expression unreadable. Sometimes doing what you have to costs more than people think. That was the first crack in the wall. It started slowly after that. Coffee runs together. Late evenings finishing projects side by side. Shared laughter over small frustrations. Ethan noticed the way Claire pushed her glasses up when she was thinking, the way she listened, really listened when he spoke. Claire noticed the way Ethan never complained, the quiet strength in his patience, the tenderness in the way he talked about his son. She'd built her career on control and independence, but around Ethan, something softened. One evening, rain lashed against the office windows as they worked late again. The city outside glowed and blurred, reflections dancing on the glass. "You ever regret it?" Claire asked suddenly. "Regret what?" Ethan said. "Not having more," she said. "More time, more life." Ethan leaned back in his chair, considering. "Sometimes. But then Noah laughs, or tells me some ridiculous story, and it feels like enough." Claire smiled faintly. "You make it sound simple." "It's not," he said. "But it's worth it." Silence settled between them, comfortable and heavy all at once. "Do you ever feel lonely?" she asked, barely above a whisper. Ethan hesitated. Honesty felt risky, but something in her gaze invited it. "Yeah," he said, "I do." Claire looked down, fingers tracing the edge of her notebook. "So do I." That was the moment everything shifted. They didn't touch. They didn't cross any lines. But something invisible connected them, something that hummed just beneath the surface. From then on, every interaction carried a quiet intensity, a shared awareness neither named. Ethan struggled with it. He told himself it was inappropriate, complicated, unfair. To Claire, to Noah, to himself. He'd spent years building a life around stability. Desire felt like a luxury he couldn't afford. Claire struggled too. She'd worked hard to be taken seriously, to never let emotions interfere with judgment. Falling for an employee, especially one like Ethan, felt like a risk she'd never allow herself. And yet, the night it finally broke open came unexpectedly. They were at the gym again, weeks later, running into each other by chance. This time they laughed about it, the tension easing into something lighter. "Guess we should start scheduling locker room appointments," Ethan joked. Claire smiled, eyes bright. "Probably safer." They walked out together, the air cool and fresh after rain. The parking lot was nearly empty, streetlights casting soft halos. "Ethan," Claire said, stopping. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "If this were different," she said carefully, "if we weren't who we are, would you want to try?" His heart raced. He thought of Noah, of work, of all the reasons not to, and then he thought of how it felt to be seen, truly seen. "Yes," he said quietly, "I would." Claire let out a breath she seemed to have been holding for months. "So would I." They didn't rush it. They talked about boundaries, about timing, about Noah. They agreed to move carefully, honestly. When they finally kissed, it was gentle and unhurried, full of promise rather than urgency. Dating Claire felt different from anything Ethan had known. It wasn't dramatic or explosive. It was steady, thoughtful, full of conversations that stretched late into the night. She met Noah slowly, respectfully, earning his trust with patience and warmth. For Claire, loving Ethan meant learning a different rhythm of life. Soccer games instead of cocktail events. Quiet dinners instead of late nights at the office. She found, to her surprise, that she loved it. Work changed too. Meetings still happened. Deadlines still loomed. But now there was laughter in the margins, understanding beneath the words. Every meeting felt different. Not because of tension, but because of connection. Years later, Ethan would sometimes think back to that accidental moment in the gym. How a single wrong turn had shifted the course of his life. How vulnerability had opened a door he never knew he needed. Love, he learned, didn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it slipped in quietly, during ordinary days, in places you never expected. And when it did, it didn't ask you to be perfect. It just asked you to be present. And for the first time in a long time, Ethan was